Good day, VC. How's it going? Yeah, I'm back with you on a video in between my Psychedelic 100, the final episode. Got a couple of videos coming this week, I think. The work has calmed down this month. June will be a quiet month, so I'm able to work at home for a bunch of days and find some time for videos such as these. I've been wanting to do a video about grading for a good while. It's something that really interests me, and I've been grading records professionally and sort of on my own for many years now, going back to, eBay in the late 90s when I first started learning about it, and the first record collection I got from my dad. He told me about eBay in 1999, and I signed up, and I think I sold a small batch of stuff, figured out how to do it. Obviously didn't know anything about grading, was probably just being like, look, a record. Early days of eBay, certainly the wild west. Before I go on, I should mention I'm actually recording this for the second time because of some audio issues, so hopefully the magic is still contained. But I started doing a little bit more and more over the years, going back to around 2009 when I started, actually 2010 when I started working in record stores, and then really buying collections and things, selling on my own and buying for the record store. And over the last, since I've been in Ithaca here, working at Engram, 8 years now, it's like my primary focus there is grading stuff to list on eBay or Discogs or buying collections. So I'm pretty well versed in it, and I have a lot of thoughts and opinions on it, I suppose. Of course, I'm no expert, but I do have my own sort of set of things that I look for, or things that really bug me, or things I definitely put emphasis on when grading records. And that reminds me, I gotta pull out something I didn't record in the first video here. We'll get to these. Yeah, in any case. So, we are listening to a record I'll talk about more about in an upcoming new vinyl in my life, but this is Princess. Where is it here? Yeah. Princess Flower and the Moonrays. Dreaming the magic of our Maya, of your Maya. A very rare private press record, a duo recording in France and hosting different musicians coming in and out. And so it's sort of in a freewheeling, avant-garde, psychedelic, mishmash. David Allen of Gong is on this with the duo here of Lauren Stanley and Raja Samyana, I believe it is. Or no, Ziska. Lauren and Ziska are the two. These two. In any case, we'll talk more about this another time. But so let's get into it. I'm just going to sort of run through various conditions of records that I have here and sort of call out thoughts about each one, and therefore will hopefully bring to mind or to light, all the different topics that you can deal with grading. And I'd love to know your thoughts about, if you think I'm wrong, if you think I'm right, if there's things that you look for specifically. I mean, obviously we always look for records in nice condition, but for some people there are things that bug others that don't bug me, and I'll talk about that. Near mint records, it's what we all want, right? Now it's easy to find with a new pressing. This is a recent pressing of a classic, well, not classic, but an amazing singer-songwriter, Sybil Bayer, Color Green, from the early 70s, an archival release, originally from 2006, but recorded in the early 70s. This is like one of the greatest folk records there is, if you don't know it. But this is near mint. Clean edges, clean sleeve. I mean, the brand new record, it's near mint. I don't grade records mint unless they're sealed, and obviously you can see there's no issues with corners and things like that. You try not to use mint at all. Actually, this has a tiny seam split on top, but it's so tiny that I would call this near mint still. There's different degrees of near mint. I mean, a near mint record from the 60s versus a near mint record from today, look different in a way. A near mint record from today may have a few very light paper scuffs. I would call that near mint, especially when you play it and see that it's clean. But a near mint record from 1966 is gonna have to look pretty amazing, pretty clean. Now, obviously, when you play grade something, you can really be a lot more detailed, and you can discover that even though it looks clean, it may not actually play clean, and that could be the pressing, that could be just needs a nice deep clean. And I hope you enjoyed me doing that cleaning in the beginning of the video with my DPI. But yeah, a near mint record knew something like this. Near mint record from 50 years ago. Here's my UK copy of Fairport Convention's Unhalf Bricking. Again, actually a little tiny seam split, but sleeve is beautiful. So maybe this is actually a VG++. But the record is an easy near mint. Just a pristine surface, clean labels. I mean, you should be not grading the labels, but absolutely mentioning if there's writing on labels. Obviously a tear. If the labels are a little worn, I think that's worth mentioning, but to me it doesn't affect the grading of the actual record. Some will do that. What's happening these days is that I'm able to sort of score with people sort of undergrading things. Grading something VG when it's actually, when you get it, an excellent or something like that. And people are doing that maybe just from lack of experience, or just wanting to undergrade and be conservative to avoid conflict, which I can understand. But a near mint vintage record, so to speak, will look like that mostly. Here's another near mint record. This one in the shrink. Now, just because it's in the shrink doesn't not mean it's near mint. A lot of times something will be in the shrink, but there'll be dirt and stuff underneath it, or a cut, or a BB hole, or pretty creased up edges. So you can't. A lot of people will automatically near mint sleeve if it's in the shrink. I wouldn't say that. This is it. I'm gonna actually listen to this today. John Cale's Academy of Pearl with these Kodak. With the Kodak film on the front. What a great hype sticker too. I think I got this sealed, and it's got the reprise. What they would do is a one sheet for the promo copies. This is a white label promo, but this is certainly near mint. Pristine sleeve and everything. Nice corners. Maybe a slight ding on the corner, but with an old record, a 40, 50-year-old record, I think a ding on the corner doesn't mean it's not a near mint. I mean, that, to me, doesn't qualify. I mean, you have to look at the overall picture. Heavy creasing will definitely downgrade something. A small crease, no. But this one would qualify as near mint. In the shrink, I like to keep records in the shrink, especially if they're old, but I don't like them if they're in gatefolds. That really bugs me. Here's another near mint. I found this in a dollar bin one day. Yasos Interdimensional Music. Fantastic. Private issue New Age. This is from 74, is it? 75? No, this one's a little bit later. It's on the Unity label. But a nice, pristine, no light hairlines or anything. Maybe a one light minor scuff or two. But no major flaws. No flaws. I mean, it doesn't have to be flawless, I'd say, but the record should look outside of a scuff or two, a very light scuff or two, pretty clean. If there's too many scuffs, that'll downgrade, depending on what it is. But again, here's a sleeve with no cuts, no nothing in the shrink. Near mint. A lot of times out there, you'll come across radio station copies. Stuff with radio writing, or the station call letters written on the cover, the back cover, the labels could have timing description on it, or timing strip. Here's my copy of No Other, 1974. It's got the poster and inner sleeve here. See, it's got the... Now, this doesn't bug me. This is the kind of cut that, first of all, here, you'll see on a lot of old records, a promo cut, or cutout, that, to me, does not downgrade from near mint. Now, I wouldn't call this record near mint with writing on the back. It's hard to say that. I mean, you could, For this, I'd probably grade it a VG++ or excellent, just because, you know, there's writing on the front and back, and it does have this cut. All those things together, maybe it's near mint. If it was just one of those things, yeah. I'm sorry, all those things together, it's an excellent. But if it was like minus one of those things, I might call it near mint. Because otherwise, the sleeve is really nice. Nice corners and everything. The record, I think, is nice too. Yeah, on the Asylum label. So, you know, like, just because it has radio station writing on the front or the back doesn't necessarily downgrade it. Well, it means you have to mention it, absolutely. If you're grading, you don't mention it's got a radio station copy. A lot of times you can just say it's a radio station copy and people are going to know what that means and where the writing is going to be. But you got to mention that it's got that writing. If you're going to call it near mint, specify. Clean sleeve, clean everything, clean corners, but does have radio writing. And I would call this a near mint if it would just have the promo cut, I think. But in any case. Ringwear. Something that does not bug me as much as it does other people. My big pet peeve is drastically cut corners. I'll show you an example of that in a second. But here's my copy of Ron Elliott's The Candlestick Maker, one and only solo record from Bo Bummel's songwriter. This ringwear is acceptable enough that I'd call it a VG+. The corners are still pretty good, no major splits or detachments. That definitely will get you into VG territory, but this one is just making VG+. Not a really high-end VG+, but good enough. It's on that green Warner Brothers label. I won't show every record, but this is my nice. This one I might call a strong VG based on it's got just too many scuffs. And I do see some faint hairlines, but I know this plays pretty well, so I probably would call it VG, but I might specify plays stronger. Something like that. You know, when I grade stuff, I definitely try to put a lot of notes in the descriptions, because that's going to give people an idea of why you called it that. Here's another solid VG+. It's great. Burt Jansch record, the Onion. Oh, I'm sorry, the Onion. Jack O'Ryan. This is the US on Vanguard. It has a bunch of stuff on Vanguard and Reprise. You know, light ringwear on the front and the bottom there. No major seam or spine wear. Not quite clean enough based on sort of wear of the sleeve to call it anything higher than a VG+, but easy one all day long. Some cut corners and some more examples of grading here. Here's my US copy on Antilles of Nick Drake's Brighter Later. This is a cut. This is about as deep as I like to see them. Not too bad. My favorite are the ones that do like a sort of half circle. Those seem the least obtrusive to me. But otherwise, a good sleeve. What a cover, right? I have a UK second on Pink Moon, and then the other two, I have these Antilles US copies, which are the first US editions, which have gotten very expensive. I got these early days of eBay, very, very cheap. So happy to still have those. Here's my Come Away with ESG with radio copy. And this green, you almost don't see it. So for this, I would go ahead and call this sleeve is very nice. It does have some old sticker residue. You could probably get away with calling this VG++, but you got to mention that writing. So I'd probably actually downgrade it to VG+ based on the fact that it does have big writing on the cover. But you know, when you look at Goldmine, it doesn't specify. Does it specify writing? I don't know in terms of grading something, but I think you gotta really disclose anything like that, whether it's on the front, back, or on the labels. It's on the Excellent 99 label, of course. You can see the green writing there. So you know, VG+, you know, with radio station writing. This is WVB, not VBR. It looks like VBU. Anyway, great ESG album. Their one and only album from that time. Yeah. And like I said, the more you can disclose, the better. If you've played at something, you can really grade it accurately. Here's a deep cut. I know Mazzy's been talking about this album a bunch. I talked about Ron Elliott on the other record there, but that's a horrible promo cut. Pretty deep one. Hate that. I'd much rather it have bad ringwear, which one this one doesn't. But this is Bradley's Barn from 1970, I think it is, also on that excellent green label. So nice record, but yeah, this is, you can't grade this anything better than a VG, even though the sleeve itself is pretty nice. Yeah, it does have some writing there, but there's no way. Even if this sleeve was like pristine, no in the shrink, no ringwear, no writing, you cannot grade that better than a VG with this kind of ugly slash. I don't think. Let's see, what else do I have in my pile here? I wanted to just pick a wide variety of stuff that has different issues so I could talk about it. Here's an example of too much ringwear. Not too much, but nothing better than a VG here. This is, what's his name? Arthur G on the Tumbleweed label. Some decent ringwear to that. The spine, top seam split there on the gatefold. And a hole punch. Hole punches, I think, you can have a near mint sleeve, I think. That's the Tumbleweed label. You can have a near mint sleeve and have one of these, I think. Maybe that's pushing it. I don't know. You might disagree with me there. But if the sleeve looks great and it just has that hole punch or that BB hole, the BB hole can look a little worse. Yeah, I don't know. Some might disagree with me, but I think you can get away with near mint if it's in beautiful shape. This one has all kinds of spine splits and stuff, or seam splits in the spine here. So this is a VG for sure. Arthur G. What else? Here's a record I found for $2 one day, a long time ago. VG sleeve, Townes Van Zandt, the last album for Poppy, High, Low, and In Between. VG sleeve, but actually not horrible. You might even be able to call this VG plus. I might not, just because the seams look a little more worn, and there is some ringwear. It's a strong VG though. You might be able to get away with VG plus on that. The record, I know, I mean, I found it for $2, and it plays pretty well. It plays better than it looks, but it does have a fair amount of hairlines. They're lighter hairlines, and you'll get an idea the more you grade records, I think, of like what kind of hairline pattern is going to make the most sound, or make sound at all. Sometimes you see them that look like they're cutting into the record, or hairlines that affect the playback, but they don't. If they're light, you won't even hear them. If they're light, you won't hear them. I mean, of course, it does depend on the quality of vinyl used, but I've seen that happen where, particularly with newer records, you see it. I mean, so it's more cosmetic, but where you look at it and it looks like it's going to play with heavy surface noise, and either it plays with very little or none. But this does have a little tear. Tears, absolutely, you got to be careful with. Even a small tear like that must be mentioned, and absolutely, that's why. Oh yeah, I definitely wouldn't call this VG plus because of that tear. Tears are like not a good thing to have, obviously. All right, side 2 of this Princess Flower LP. Here's a good copy of a radio station edition of Judy Seal's second album, and you can see heavy spine wear, seam split. This is some, pretty obtrusive college radio call letters here. You have stickers on top, so VG easily. But I'd stick with VG. I mean, the ringwear isn't too bad. The inside, not too bad. Promo stickers, these are, this is, if anything, patina, as Secco Funk would say. I mean, this is not a sticker that you would need to downgrade anything for, but you mentioned, obviously, it's got a promo sticker on it. This is a beautiful folk album. Found this for less than $10 many years ago now. And yeah, a promo copy. So here's your radio station letters on the label there. So there's that. But yeah, the record actually is pretty nice. Some faint scuff marks. This might, I don't have my grading light on, but let's get it on maybe. But yeah, this would qualify as a VG Plus easily. Sometimes the scuff marks, you can tell, I mean, you can tell they're not going to be a problem, but they don't look good. And so it's hard to sort of, you know, not downgrade because of that. So in this case, I wouldn't get anything higher than VG Plus for it. Lower than that, I don't keep many records. I don't have many records lower than VG. It's just not, well, I'll show you some jazz ones, but here's one I found also for under $10, a sort of post-punk art rock record. Singer of the Lemon Kittens, or artist behind the Lemon Kittens, Carl Blake. You can see heavy water damage. The sleeve there, wavy. It's got the old sound sticker, New York City institution for a while on what street was it on? I'm forgetting the street was on. Was it on Astor Place? No. Yeah, across from Kim's Underground, Mondo Kim's, or next to it anyway, on St. Mark's Place. But look at this bad tear. So this one below, this is like, you know, good. I don't even think this is a G. I'd probably put this at fair, and you have to do a lot of heavy explaining. You got water damage along the top, and the tear, the worst thing on the back. So yeah, I guess fair. I don't think I graded very much in that. But the reason why I got it is because it certainly sells for way more than what I got it for. I think I got this for like $5. And the sleeve is nice. Or I'm sorry, the record is very nice. So I have it. And it's a UK only one-time pressing, so it's here. Pretty cool record too. Stickers, some more talk about stickers. I have a bunch of records from Angry Mom that all came from this radio station that is based here, WSKG. And so some of you may out there may even have these. This kind of sticker I don't think I mind at all, and it does qualify as patina again, I think, because it dates it. I mean, you have the date right there, 1979. It just sort of adds to the, you know, to me, the collectible nature. Some of these stickers we did get off, but some we left on, especially if it's like, it kind of blends into the cover here. This is a beautiful album by John Sermon, some 79 on ECM. All Sermon on here. And yeah, I just, for me, this, you may feel differently about this, but this kind of sticker doesn't bug me. So, I would probably still I'd grade this as a VG Plus, because there is some spine wear, some light ring wear. But with something like this, you know, you have to also take into account who's buying. You know, when you grade classical or jazz records, you got to be pretty, you know, on your game, because those buyers tend to be a little more, you know, picky. And then for rightly so. Especially classical. They don't want to buy anything below near mid, really. Unless it's super rare. So, you know, depending on who's buying, like ECM, the records that really require a clean surface, you got to be on top of it. So, also warping. I haven't discussed warping at all. There's a horrible thing going on out there. I've seen it a few times. Sellers grading stuff near mint, but it's got a warp. Now, that's bullshit. I think. Even if it doesn't affect the play, which it probably will depending on how bad the warp is, there's no way you can do that. I don't care if the surface is pristine. You have a warped record, you can't, for me, you can't grade that anything higher than VG, I don't think. Now, if it's a subtle warp, a lot of records have a lot of times you see very, very faint warps that don't do anything. But some will have like a decent warp where you're definitely seeing that wow, and that sort of bump, but does not affect the playback. You know, if it's bad, you'll hear a whoosh, whoosh, and that's not good. But I remember, yeah, so to me, you got to definitely disclose any warps that are significant, and you got to grade it VG or below for me. Certainly if it's not very playable. I remember when I first got this Shags reissue, this is this horrible color. This has got a warp on it, doesn't it? God, I don't really see the warp anymore. You know, a lot of times you don't see the warp until you play it, but a lot of times you can tell just when you pick it up, you'll notice like a slight bending of the light in a way. Like, oh, there's a warp. But you do got to be careful for that. Obviously, sealed records is an issue. But this one, they actually refunded me, and I got to keep the record. And it does play through, although it does do a pretty decent warp. It bugged me so much that I finally went out and bought a very first original pressing of Philosophy of the World by the Shag. No, I'm kidding. That's a $10,000 record, or close to it. This is actually the first reissue, though, on Rooster. And not that much. This is one of my all-time favorite albums. I don't know if that would surprise you or not, but it is. It's absolutely heartwarming. In any case, warps. No, you can't be grading near mint or anything like that with a warp. No, I don't accept that. You shouldn't either. All right, so old jazz records. We all know that, you know, pre-1966, you know, basically from the early 60s, late 50s, the pressing quality. Now, you might find records with heavy hairlines, heavy-duty wear, scuffing, you know, both shallow and deep, whatever, and it plays, like, quite well. That's kind of the case with some of these, although these aren't in that bad shape. This copy of Freedom Suite, this is actually pretty nice, but, you know, you'll find stuff that it just, the vinyl was just real high quality, and it does not suffer the same fate that other records, especially modern 70s or even 80s records, suffer with, you know, wear and tear on it. There may be surface noise on these kinds of records, these old jazz records, but the power of the dynamic of recordings seem to overpower it, or just surface noise isn't that bad. I've seen records that look destroyed, and I'll talk about that soon, and they play pretty well, and they're worth having for that. This copy of Black Saint and the Sinner Lady, this one I know has, yeah, these impulses are good too, especially the Trident labels here. Exceptionally well. My copy of Shape of Jazz to Come on that white fan label. Again, you can see light hairlines, but I know for a fact this plays beautiful. Early mono copy of Ornette's Classic. Here's one one of my recent mistakes over the last 6 months. This copy of Taifa, 3 different records with the Harlem Bush Music, Gary Bart's trio. This was graded VG, and I was like, I'll take a chance on it. The sleeve is, and the record is definitely below VG. And I got into like a back and forth with the seller. I don't know why. I don't usually do this, but I just gave in. They were like, you know, you bought a VG record. What do you expect? I'm like, well, I expect something that's VG. This is like unplayable. I mean, maybe not unplayable, but I mean, I don't know if you can see it, but like way too many hairlines, way too much. I see like dings, I see scuffing, I see surface wear, I even see some groove wear. I should have returned it. I don't know. The seller was giving me shit. For some reason, I didn't feel like dealing with it. I had a lot going on all the time, and I just kept it. I never do that. I don't think I've ever done it. Come on. Yeah, so my fault there. So you shouldn't do that. It wasn't expensive. This record has kind of gotten expensive, like everything on Milestone at this era. So it wasn't that much, but I should have gotten my money back for this. In any case, I'm looking for a replacement on that if anyone has one. Any of the Bush Music stuff I'm still missing. So anyway, those are thoughts on grading. I mean, this is not obviously a comprehensive guide in any way, but I just wanted to sort of run through a gamut of different records in different conditions and just bring out all of my different thinking based on that. So there's certainly more. This is a good topic for discussion, I think. I'm sure others have done sort of videos on this, but I wanted to keep it sort of open-ended and just sort of talk about my history and thoughts about stuff I look for and whatnot. So hope you enjoyed that, and look for more this week, I think, and hope you're doing well out there. See ya.